wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that we'll spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it.
He has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his, and everybody is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
Does not have any agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, I before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted.
The boxing world has exploded after claims that Anthony Joshua went too far against Jake Paul in the ring. Some experts and fans are furious, saying the damage Jake suffered was severe and dangerous. Jake reportedly suffered serious jaw fractures that required surgery and metal screws. Critics argue the fight was a bad mismatch from the start and that Joshua's power was too much. The level of injury shocked many people and has now sparked major debates about fighter safety and whether this fight should have ever happened.
Away from the power, you could call it running, and you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing. It was not.
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shaka Majwi broke down Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua in detail. They focused on both the strategy and the physical damage Jake took. Joshua's power caused heavy punishment, leading to injuries that required jaw surgery. To survive, Jake relied on movement, footwork, and constant circling to stay off the ropes. While this style wasn't aggressive, it helped him last longer than many expected. The analyst said Jake's defense showed planning and awareness, but also highlighted the serious risks of putting mismatched fighters in high-pressure fights.
This be the end for him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring?
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there. There's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to...
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted strongly to Jake Paul's loss, calling it a clear lesson in real professional boxing. He said Jake was completely outmatched by Anthony Joshua's size, power, and skill. Joshua's combinations and uppercuts left Jake with very little space to escape. Bisping explained that the broken jaw and repeated damage came from facing an elite heavyweight for the first time. According to him, hype and confidence can't prepare someone for this level of competition. The fight showed the massive gap between top professionals and celebrity boxers.
My humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? a lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing. It's not MMA, as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, then a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough to...
After the fight, reports revealed that both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua earned around $92 million each, making it one of the biggest paydays in boxing history on Netflix. But Joshua's earnings were heavily reduced by taxes. Because he is a UK resident fighting in the United States, he must pay US taxes and UK international taxes. Experts estimate that nearly $66 million could be taken from his purse. Meanwhile, Jake Paul, as a US-based fighter, keeps a much larger share despite losing. The situation shows how headline numbers don't reflect what fighters actually take home.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million, $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn.
Dominic Angle gave a brutally honest breakdown of the fight. He explained that Jake Paul's main strategy was to avoid exchanges rather than stand and trade punches. This made it hard for Joshua to trap him early. Angle noted that when Jake took a clean right hand, he showed toughness by not panicking. However, he also said Joshua never needed to go full power in an 8-round fight. Angle compared it to other elite fighters who adjust their effort based on the opponent. When Joshua landed clean shots, Jake felt them, but overall the fight stayed controlled rather than reckless.